project begin? I've got a blank canvas and a crafty grin with a stack of cardstock rainbow hue.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulful Celebrations 2026. Today, we're going to be making a graduation card, and I'm going to show you how to add soulful elements to it just by using a stencil and like a little bit of pizzazz. So, this is the card we're going to be making. And I wanted to walk through the supplies before we zoom in. I have a die cut machine. This is an electric one. It doesn't matter what kind of die cut machine you use. And the cutting plates. I have an embossing gun, embossing powder, 2 embossing powders, and embossing ink. And I'll walk through what each of those are as we go through them. I have some brown ink. And then this is the amazing stencil we're going to be using. Look at that. It's like African mud cloth. And I'll tell you about that. That comes from Textile Bakery, and I'll show you a little bit more about them in a bit when I zoom in. We're going to be using this stamp set from scrapbook.com. It's a graduation set, and it has coordinating dies, and that's what we're going to use the die cut machine for. And then I'm going to be using this add-on set to get this cap and this tassel and the diploma and the ribbon. We're going to be using just some brown paper, some gold paper, black paper, like a cream, and a craft. We're going to be using these little stickers. They come in little black strips like that, so we're going to be using that. I'm in Arizona, so we have abundant sunshine here today, so hopefully the lighting cooperates with me this morning. I have something to clean my stamps with, and this is where I keep all my foam dots. So that's what I have here to the side. So I'm going to pause, get everything set up, and we'll get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create this background. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to, I'm going to move this stuff aside, use this stencil. So I'm going to find where I want this to be. And I have some low tack tape. This is just like a low tack tape to help hold the stencil in place while we do our inking. So we're going to use a brush, and we're going to use that brown ink that's similar but slightly darker than this craft ink to make the design on this paper. Okay? So I kind of want a little bit of these X's and these marks. So I'm going to position it about there. So this stencil comes from a company called Textile Bakery, and they're on Etsy. Here's their information. It's an arts and crafts shop. And the cool thing about their stencils are how flexible they are, and they're so easy to clean. I have some staining from some harsher mediums that I've used with this stencil, but overall, I've had these stencils for years and they have held up really well. So once I get the stencil sort of where I want, I'm going to turn it over, try to keep it straight. We'll see how good I can do that. And then we're going to tape it down. In the end, I don't really care how straight it is. It's kind of an abstract design, so it's not like a deal breaker. But as you can see here, we have kind of the design covering the paper. As you can see, this paper is a little bit smaller than sort of the card base, so this is going to get trimmed down. So if there's a little like mess up or whatever, just trim that part off. I'm going to be using this brown ink. It's sort of a coppery brown. It's a rich brown color. It's really pretty. And I'm going to be using this blending brush. So you can get blending brushes anywhere. You can get them on Amazon. I think they even have them at Dollar Tree. I do have these in colors so that I have one for kind of every color family of the rainbow. But you don't have to do that. You could just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and spray it on a microfiber cloth and clean one brush in between each one. So you don't necessarily have to have one for every color. So I'm going to ink this up. The nice thing about this is that mud cloth is sort of an organic design made on cotton. So if there's a little bit of bleed through, it's actually going to look more authentic than less. So you don't have to worry about sort of how heavy-handed you're going to be. I know some of you noticed that I'm using a glass mat here, and you're probably wondering why I don't have magnets, but I actually bought this in like 2017-ish, 2018, and at that time you can choose to have it magnetic or not, and I chose non-magnetic. So this one is not magnetic, but it is a Glassboard Studio mat. So you're going to make small circles. See, some of these are really intricate and you don't want to do anything to kind of make that lift up. So you're going to make small circles here and transfer the design using the stencil onto the paper. I'm very generous with this ink. I know there's a lot of techniques where you kind of rub it off over here first so you don't get harsh lines, but again, we're making sort of an organic design, so it doesn't really matter. It's really hard to mess that up. The nice thing about a glass mat, as you can see, is when you put the ink down, you can just pick it right back up as if it's a paint palette and get what you want on there. I'm going to show you, because we're going to use this stencil again, it's going to be important that it's clean. And even though there's a bathroom right behind me, obviously I'm not going to take you to the bathroom in my video, but I have this microfiber cloth. I'm going to wipe that right off the glass. I have caps for my brushes because I'm accident prone. So we're going to close everything up because accident prone. We're going to move that out of the way for a second while we clean up. So as you can see, some of the design transferred. That doesn't matter. But look at that. Look how pretty that is. And again, we got some parts that are more dark or whatever. Again, we're going to have a piece covering this up. This is going to get trimmed down, but it's meant to be sort of an organic design. I'm using an Archon mounted video today, and I'm just sticking my low-tack tape to that mount because I'm going to use it again. So I'm going to set that aside. And I keep a bottle of rubbing alcohol next to my desk. And so I'm going to use that, and we're just going to clean off the glass. And I'm going to use it to clean off the stencil. The reason why people use rubbing alcohol to sort of clean off the stencil is because it dries really quickly. And so you don't have to wait for the water to dry. When I am all done, I will take this over to the sink and give it a good rinse under water. But this is a very pigmented ink, so it is going to take a couple of spurts to get this clean. And like I said, we're going to use this later. So I definitely want to get that clean. And now that's dry already, completely dry and ready to go. So I will put that to the side while we work on the next step. So my camera is really high up, so it's hard for me to hit that pause button without kind of knocking over things. I want to show you two ways we can trim this down. So we can use a paper trimmer and try to trim it down to 4 by 5 1/4. But on this card, I have 3 layers and they're really tight. I don't even know if you could see that there's 1, 2, 3 layers and they're really tight together. So instead of using the paper trimmer, I think what I want to do is use what's called nesting dies. These are the Hero Arts ones. And so I'm going to cut it down just so I could be sure that all 3 sizes are exactly where I want them to be. So I know I need this layer. This is going to dry and it's going to be closer to that color. I know I need this layer. That's this piece here. And I know I need black. So black is going to be my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece. So this is 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 long. This is what's called an A2 card. Okay, so that base is definitely going to stay this size. So I don't need to do anything to that. However, what I do need to do is get these next 2 layers nestled in. So for this one, as you can see, that comes in a little further. That's probably going to be for that one. And so then I want perhaps this next layer to be really tight. So that would be this one, okay? So I'm going to use this layer, which is in this set, the second from the biggest one, to cut this color. And I'm going to use this layer to cut this color. So I'm going to move my stuff out of the way. Luckily, I have a big old desk here, so I can move stuff out of the way. I am going to... Okay. Yep. So let's get this cut. This die cut machine is a little different than most mini die cut machines because you can cut an A2, that's an A2 size piece of paper on here. It doesn't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Usually you should cut smaller pieces, but I'm kind of hard-headed and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it with this because it's right here and it's easy and it's relatively quiet. So there's that piece, and as you can see, that pops right out. Look at that razor thin frame we have left there. I have a little trash can here right next to my desk. So that layer is cut. And now I'm going to cut this one. So I kind of, you know, got a little extra over there. So I'm probably going to cut it closer to this end to kind of get off those pieces that didn't look exactly the way I wanted them to look. And that's what I mean about you can kind of cut what you want. When I do the description, what I'll do is measure these layers so you'll have the exact measurements, just in case you're using a paper trimmer instead of a die cut machine. But it certainly saves time. There are die cut machines that are manual and you have to crank them, but I have shoulder issues, so I stopped doing that relatively early in my card making journey. All right, so we have those cut, so I'm going to move this out of the way. We will do a little bit more die cutting later. I'm just sort of going in the order of making the card and not necessarily like what's the most time effective. So that is how it looks so far. It's just a little bit different than the tight layers I had here because I did that with a paper trimmer, but it looks really nice. Look how rich this looks. This already looks like a nice like throw pillow, some nice fabric. So we're going to have that sit over there. And we're going to work on this piece. Now, if I can catch the light, this is probably a good time. The sun is blasting right on my desk. You can see that this is shiny. So in order to do that, we're going to use what's called clear embossing. So this is a ink pad, and it's made of a clear ink that's a little bit sticky. And it, before it gets cured, this powder is poured over it. And it makes it stick to this ink. And then you use this heat gun to sort of cure it to make it stick to the paper. For a lot of people, this is what got them into card making, and that is what made them sort of be like, ooh, wow, this is so exciting. So this piece is 2 inches wide, and it is, wow, it is exactly, I don't even have to trim it, 5 1/4. So it's going to lay across just like that. Okay? So with this aside, I like to put my stuff to the side so I don't mess it up because, again, clumsy. We're going to use that stencil again, and we're going to figure out where we want the pattern. So if you see this pattern here, I don't want it necessarily to kind of be matchy-matchy. So I want to pick an area that's different than kind of what I have here. And so here I have more lines and these arrows. So I think I'm going to try to do more of these X's, and there is going to be some arrows, but maybe some of these dashes. So maybe I'll just kind of center it like here. So just so we have a slightly different pattern. I do see there's some dots over here. Let's see. Let's do maybe more of these stripes. Oh, I like it. This part over here. Okay. So remember that tape I used earlier? This is actually scrapbook.com's mint tape. This is my favorite low tack tape. I have it everywhere. I have a lot of it. So if you weren't able to get mint tape from scrapbook.com because it's sold out, it was probably me. I probably bought it all. I even keep a gigantic piece stuck to my adhesive folder. So if I need to make a mask or if I just need to rip off a sheet real quick. So that's how much I use this tape. But I have it in like all the sizes. Just as a quick sidebar, I have 2 dispensers, one with the really skinny versions of the tape on here. And then I have the other one for the regular size. So yeah, if there's mint tape missing, it's probably my fault. So here we go. So this one, we're going to put this ink. Now this one is really interesting because you're not really going to see what's happening. So we're going to take a double approach here. I'm actually going to turn this sideways. Oops. And I have a brush that's specifically for this ink. Somehow there's some pink on here. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but we're going to ignore it because it's not doing anything. And you're going to rub it into this pad. It's really sticky and thick, and you're really going to try to get in there and get it on the paper. Again, the hard part is you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. There's going to be like a slight change in color, but like not a lot. So while I work this ink in there, why don't you guys put in the comments, like, are you a first-time card maker? Have you been making cards for a long time? Put in the years, and maybe put a technique that you've learned today so far that you have been like, I'm going to totally incorporate that technique into my paper crafting. I know some of you guys watching the video are cloth creators, like you use textiles, quilting, things like that. The cool thing about these stencils is they can be used on fabric. You can just get some fabric paint and print on your own fabric. The other thing is, I know that you can also use this for cake decorating. So if you want to make a cake with these kind of designs on there, you can use these stencils for that as well. Now, because I'm an overachiever and I'm not sure if I got it on there, I'm actually just going to even turn the pad over and kind of press it into the design just to make sure that I got it on there. I mean, I guess I could just do this part, but I feel like both ways ensures that I got enough ink on there. So I'm going to put this away because I don't need that. And then I'm going to grab this very fancy thing, which is called a folded up piece of printer paper. And I'm going to take this folded up piece of printer paper and I'm going to take this off carefully because I don't want to smudge the designs with my fingers. So I'm going to pull off the tape here. There we go. And you see how we got that design on there, right? Okay. So I'm going to take this tape off because that powder sticks to anything sticky. So it will stick to the tape. So you see I'm holding it from the sides. So we're going to take that tape off, stick it on the pole of the archive mount again. And this, you see this gigantic C on there? That's for clear. The white embossing powder and the clear embossing powder looks exactly the same. So because of some accidents in the past, I've made it very clear to mark that with a C so I know that that's clear. Oops. All right, so we're going to take this and you're going to dump the powder on here like that. There's some pro card makers like, oh no, she forgot a step, and I'll tell you what that step is in a moment. But it doesn't seem to be causing me any problems. And because this is clear embossing powder, it doesn't matter as much. So I'm just flicking that a little bit to get the excess powder off. And so now you can see where the powder stuck to the ink. Typically we use this, which is a powder tool, to make sure that there's no stray powder sticking around. But again, because this is a clear powder and this is meant to look like an organic fabric, I didn't really need it. We'll use it later. Okay, so we're going to set that aside because I am a tidy crafter. We're going to go ahead and put this powder back in here before I spill it all over myself. And we're going to put that away. We don't need that. Now, we're going to use this heat gun. So these are reverse tweezers. There's a bunch of different kinds in the market. And so what it is in the natural state, it's closed. You have to squeeze it to open it. This works like another pair of hands. So I'm going to pick up this paper with these reverse tweezers. Now, with these tweezers, you see there's a rubber part and this is metal. When I turn this heat gun on and I try to heat this up, it's probably not a good idea to hold it by the metal. I try to hold it by the plastic. So this may be a little loud, I apologize, but we're going to turn this on. And we're going to let it warm up a little bit. I don't even know if you can see the red inside or where it's warming up. And then we're going to heat this up. Sometimes I heat it from the bottom just to make sure the paper doesn't warp. And then you can see it change. The white is turning clear. And on this dark paper, it makes it look like I stamped it in dark ink, or I inked it with a darker ink, but it's actually embossed with a clear embossing powder. Look at that. And it has that shine to it. Do you see that shine? Alrighty. So we're going to set that aside to dry. I just don't like touching it when it's hot because you can smudge it or whatever. So now we've cut these layers. We've made this piece and we've made this piece. Now we're going to work on the cap and gown and the sentiments. So first we're going to cut this cap out of black paper, this out of the cream paper, and this tassel and this ribbon out of gold paper. So we're going to go back to the die cut machine. And this is nice because I can cut multiple things at once. As you can see, I was already cutting out tassels and things here. So I'm actually going to get the dies that we need. Again, this is from Lawn Fawn. This is what the package looks like. It says Woodland Critter Huggers Graduation Add-on. But again, you don't have to use things the way that they are in the package. You can use them any way you want. So we're going to need, for the gold, this tassel and ribbon, right? This is just a magnet sheet. I have so many of these, I can't even tell you where I got them from. To be 100% honest, probably Amazon, but it could be Stamp and Storage. It could be a bunch of places. So I'm just going to cut a piece because we don't need all that. And I want to try to cut this all at once. So we're going to put the tassel on here. There's some people like, she's wasting paper. Rest assured, no paper will be wasted. This stuff will get used later on. And then this will be for the cap. I will put that over there to cut there. All right. So again, moving. I see why people who make videos all the time also always complain about their disaster area when they're crafting, because I am very quickly running out of space already. All right. So that machine is, you know, has some weight to it, but it's definitely not super heavy. Sometimes I use this pokey tool to get my dies out, and sometimes I throw them on the ground, as you just saw, or throw them on the mat. This is one of those times, because see how this dent happened here? Because I had that one paper over that. I'll have to use some texture. But they usually have these little holes to help you release the dies. Look at that. See? We have the gold tassel. I already lost, oh, here we go. Like I already lost the magnet. That goes with that. Here's the ribbon. There we go. And the only thing I didn't cut is this piece here. And I want to be mindful because I'm going to be cutting this graduation out of this. So I want to make sure I just kind of stay to a corner so there's enough space for that graduation piece. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. We'll just move that right here in frame. So the machine usually likes it better when you tilt things to the side. I'm not spectacular at following directions and doing what I'm supposed to do in general. So I have broken a machine, but that was from absent-mindedness. So I've learned to be fully present when crafting and not to allow myself to be distracted by other things. So I'm going to put that away because, again, I tend to put stuff away when I'm done with it. So I will toss that to the, I'm finished with this pile over here. And now that we've cut these pieces, let's glue them together so they can be drying while we work on the next piece. I tend to use Nouveau glue, and I date them when I open them so I know how much is left. I have about this much left in this bottle from October. So for this, a little dab of Duya, I'm sure that's from something. I don't know what. My brain always remembers the most randomest stuff. Hey, over in the comments, why don't you guys talk about what kind of weather you guys are having? As you can see, I'm in Arizona, so we have abundant sunshine. So there was a little hole that was depressed into the paper to let me know exactly where to put that tassel. So that goes there. For this one, I kind of eyeballed it. I know I want this swirly piece. Hopefully you guys can see this. I want this swirly piece on top. And so I'm going to put just like a little string of glue right there. I also store my glue upside down because anything like this thick, you know, is too hard to squeeze in the bottle. So just storing it upside down, as you can see, it just comes right out. Here we go. And I lay that right on there. Just like that. I just line that piece up. So we're going to leave that over there to dry while we work on the next piece. So let's work on this congratulations. So we're done with these pieces. Oh, no, we're not. We need this black piece to do this congrats on your. So we're done with the gold. So there's my done pile over there. And we're going to do some stamping. I'm going to move this out of the way. Well, I'm going to show you. This says graduation in this really fancy script. And so we're going to stamp this and then we're going to cut it out with its coordinating die. And I love that the die cut out these little pieces here. And it got pretty close to the word. It's just really great. And it would allow me to kind of tuck this skinny strip sentiment right into that and nestle it in there. All right. So I'm using a Misty, forget what it stands for, but it has a really cool idea. So we're going to take this and we're going to grab our stamp and die set. Okay. As you can see, it's used. I tend to cut off the top. I have a pretty, all my storage is upright. Things aren't usually flying around here in the craft room. So it just makes sense for me, but you do what works for you and your storage system and your brain. So I am not going to be great about saving paper here. And the reason why is I want to make sure there is more than enough room to die cut this out so that it looks really pretty. So I'm going to put this kind of in the middle. I have a sticky mat in here, and that helps hold the paper in place. So I'm not fighting with this stamp. This basically works like a stamp block. It's going to pick it up like that. It doesn't matter if it's straight because I'm going to die cut it. I'm going to use the same brown ink that we used to do this background. And we're just going to gently tap. I prefer a foam pad to felt, but everybody has their own preference. But if you use felt, you know, you may have to stamp a little harder. You may have to condition your stamp and do all of that. So then that just closes. I just do a gentle rub, and as you can see, I didn't get the cleanest impression. So the nice thing about this stamping platform is I could just go back in there and do it again. Bam. And it looks great. It keeps everything in place. So I'm really happy with that. I am a clean as you go person, if you haven't picked that up already. So we're going to just clean that off. I am the person that will forget that I didn't clean it and then go stamp something, and I really want it to be purple and it'll be yellow because it was super dirty or something. So now that that's cleaned off, whoops, sticky, sticky, we're going to peel that off, put it back. And before I do the die cutting, we're going to stamp, since I have the Misty out, the congrats on your. So we're definitely doing the congrats on your sentiment here. Oof, running out of space again. But that's going to be on black paper. And you're like, but Zoe, how are we going to see words on black paper? Well, this is where this comes in. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to emboss it. And we're going to emboss it using a cream colored embossing powder. Not nice. So first, hopefully that's on camera. I'll do it over here too. You're going to use your embossing tool. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I like this one just because it's tidy. And I'm going to pop that right in the middle. I do want this to be, see where I took some of the powder off? We're going to put some of that right back on there. I do want this to be straight. So there's lines here. Oh, I don't want to get my head in the camera. But there's lines here. I'm going to kind of go in the middle. Ooh, this is really hard to do when you're not directly over it. Haha, that's funny. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to guess that's straight, but we're going to double check it by checking it against the grid lines on this top thing. So it looks like it's evenly measured on these grid lines on the lid. Okay, so I'm going to get that clear, that Versamark watermark ink again, and we're going to love tap it. And this one you will see a little bit. See where it says congrats on your, I maybe do this too much. I always stamp it 3 times. I want to be triply, doubly, happily sure that it is on there. Then we're going to grab our fancy filter that we made out of copy paper by folding it in half. We're going to open this embossing powder and we're going to dump it over that. Really nice. And you're like, oh no, it's sticking. Yeah. Nope. It's all gone. That white powder kind of helps that not stick. Okay. So we'll put that over there because remember, I'm a clean as you go kind of person because I have had the most spectacular accidents. I already told you I broke a die cut machine. So if I can break a die cut machine, you can imagine what I can do to something as simple as powder lying around. Now, I wipe the stamp, but I also go in and I wipe off my grit mat because we just put powder all over it and that will reduce the amount of stickiness on there. So I want to make sure that's all cleaned off so when I go to stamp again that is ready to go. So we'll put this back on the stamp. Congrats. I have a really, really bad memory and I'm really, really, really absent-minded, like really absent-minded. The fact that I am following along my own train of thought today is spectacularly amazing. So if I don't put my stuff away right after, not only will I forget, but I will forget it exists. So I really have to be mindful of that. All right, so let's get this set with heat. So on goes the heat gun again. I don't recommend testing it on your hand like I'm doing. I'm actually freezing today, which everyone who lives anywhere but Arizona and California will be laughing at me. It's probably like 60 degrees outside. But as you can see, that is setting nicely. Okay, so we're actually done with the heat embossing. And I want that to dry for a little bit because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is actually a little damp because I cleaned off my glass mat before I started filming today. I want to make sure, you know, there was no makeup or anything on there. But I don't wear makeup, let's say hair products maybe. But we're going to go ahead and wipe off that powder. Now, there is a little bit of stray embossing, but that is okay. And the reason why that's okay is because we're about to trim this. We're trying to make this little skinny sentiment strip. So I like to work towards the bottom of my machine. Now, I did learn this from Simon Hurley, actually. he lines his letters or whatever image next to the edge of this to get a nice clean cut that's straight. So that's my first cut. My second one is I'm turning it around and I'm lining it up with that again so that the letters, hopefully you guys can see that, are flush with the edge of this guide. And then I'm holding it down here just so I can get some nice clean cuts. Then I'm going to line it up with the bottom, and again, see where the R is. It's lined up right to the edge. And I'm going to turn it around, do the same thing, line that edge of that C right up to the guide, and cut it off. And so I have a nice clean cut. It could be tighter, it could be closer, but I'll have to get a smaller trimmer because my eyes are not going to cooperate with this big trimmer. Next, we're going to cut this out. So again, with our die cut machine, I already know it's this one because I did it earlier, but it's cool that it comes with strips. Unfortunately, the strips are made for the individual sentiments, not if you join them together, so there isn't one long enough to cut that out, but that would have been cool. So I'm going to line this up again without being directly over it, so that should be tons of fun. Let's see here. Sarcasm can be my love language. I do try to be nice, but sometimes the sarcasm sneaks in here. I don't think my head is in the video, but if it is, I apologize. Okay, so I have that there. I'm gonna pick up my little mini here. This is the Anna Griffin Empress Mini die cut machine. It is my favorite die cut machine. Some people are probably freaking out that I didn't tape that down. The nice thing about the Anna Griffin machine is that you cut into the magnet base. And so this is a magnet and it holds this metal die in place, which is why I need to get this pointy thing just to get it off because it's a pretty strong magnet. And then voila, or as my mom used to say, bada boom, bada bang. That all comes out and there's the sentiment. All right, so we've done a lot, if not all. Yeah, we've done all the sort of techniques. We did stenciling. We did heat embossing. We did some precision paper cutting. So now, as I move things out of the way, it's time to assemble. So I'm going to slide some stuff back in. I think I'm going to recommend that when you do these layers, because they're so close together, that you use liquid glue. I did forget something. Oh, I thought I lost it, but I didn't. You see how this card has these black strips going along the side? These are called Love from Lizzie. And a while ago I learned about these and I bought a whole bunch and then I never used them. So for this card, I felt like we needed to bring a little bit of that black in there. So I'm going to grab some strips and very carefully try to place them on the sides. And I recommend doing this part before you glue everything down because I did have to try to get those strips in there after, and I can tell you right now that was zero fun, 0 stars. Do not recommend. So I recommend doing it ahead of time. Again, these are stickers. If you don't have Love from Lizzie stickers, just cut off little thin strips of black paper and glue them to the side. You can also cut a piece of black paper that's slightly wider than this piece and use it as a matting layer. So I have that there on the edge. Hello, stay on there. And I'm just gonna peel it to the back. Now I could cut off a bunch of little pieces and glue them on here, but I'm not doing that. We're just gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna get another one and peel that off. So if you have some Love from Lizzie things lying around, break them out, use them. They're nice additions. They add a little bit of something and they don't add a lot of weight to the card. I see a lot of misinformation about mailing cards online, and it breaks my heart. because I think, you know, first of all, mail your cards. You made this card. I'm probably going to use this card for my son's graduations. They're both graduating this May. I'm so excited. I'm a proud mom. But mail your cards. I won't get into the rules about mailing a card, but basically, as long as your card is thinner than 1/4 of an inch and it's bendable so that it can go through a machine, the machines kind of go in a wavy motion. So if this is not super bendable. So if it's bendable and it's thinner than 1/4 of an inch and it's less than an ounce, you can mail it with a regular stamp. What starts to happen is when it starts to get rigid, then you start getting into package territory. And I think that's what people worry about. All right, so we're going to assemble. I'm going to lay these out sort of in the order, the order that I'm going to do them in. Because the reason why I say use liquid glue is because you can move it if you don't exactly get it in the right place. I'm not super crazy with liquid adhesive. Because again, clumsy. So this paper will show, you know, if you get glue somewhere. You saw me pause and talking because I can't talk and line things up straight at the same time. I think that's straight. Looks pretty straight. So I have one layer on there. Being super uncooperative with me. I don't think it liked going through the die cut machine that way. Usually I have a bigger Empress and usually I use and make it go diagonal so it doesn't make the paper bend. But I like this machine because it fits on camera and I didn't have to get up and try to move around and pause the camera a bunch of times. I'm recording this live, so this will likely not be edited, except I did bump the camera and I may try to edit that out. But if you see a bump in the video, that means I couldn't figure out how to edit it out. So it's in there. So there's that piece. Bam. Okay. So we have this on there. And you can decide, do you want that? Do you want the arrows to go down and sideways? Do you want it to go this way? At this point, it doesn't matter. Once you get that stripe on there, then it kind of matters. So I think I'm going to do it this way. I kind of like these arrows pointing down. And then I'm going to put this strip sort of close to this side over here. Now, some people will cut extra cardstock and put it along the edges so that it's flush on the sides. I wish I was that particular, but I am not. So we're going to glue that down. And I'm going to turn this sideways just so it's easier for me to see here. Yep, there we go. Alrighty. So now that's all laid down. Bam, look at that. I feel like this looks like a table runner. I think I have table runners like this. I was going to say I want one, but I think I have table runners. So the next piece is going to be getting this cap and gown on here and getting this on here sort of faced up. So you want to kind of lay out your pieces to figure out where you want them to go. I kind of have this coming fairly close to the end. I may trim up that congrats on your a little bit more, just so it's a little tighter. Let me grab my tiny trimmer. I have a tinier trimmer. And this way I can actually see a little bit better what I'm doing, just to get it cleaned up. My eyes are not spectacular. I have readers on while I'm doing this video so I can see what I'm doing. But I want it trimmed really tight. And this is an excellent opportunity to make your sentiment crooked. So take your time. If you know that you're going to cut it crooked or you have a tendency to do that, cut more than one at once. So I have that now really tight. So I'm going to take out a couple of sizes of foam strips. Now the ones I like, several brands sell them. I have a couple of different brands here. These are the Spellbinders ones. And then these are the scrapbook.com ones. They don't usually come like this. As I use it, I cut it down. But as you can see, they're kind of thin. These are 1 millimeter thickness tapes. And this is a smaller and a bigger one. And I like it because it just doesn't, it adds depth, but not like crazy like depth where you have to mail your package, you mail your card as a package. So we're going to close that glue up, and we're going to just go ahead and put adhesive on the back of these pieces. I'm going to hold off on this one because it'll depend on where that goes. So we're going to start here, and we're going to just put some adhesive dots on here. Now, could I use my fingernails? Absolutely. Does that work for me? Absolutely not. Never. It never works. I end up ripping them up to shreds and losing them or messing them up. And unfortunately, adhesive is not free. So I rather get it right the first time than having to do it multiple times. So that is why we do not use our fingers. Now, I need some smaller pieces, so we're going to cut about, I think I needed 4 of these right in half. These are titanium coated scissors. These are scrapbook.com. I also have some that are Tim Holtz. And the nice thing is they're non-stick. I think regular stores like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, even Dollar Tree, I think they sell titanium coated scissors that are non-stick. Super helpful when you're cutting adhesive. So why am I cutting these tiny pieces? To go like here on these little curves, just so that they don't dip down. You want your card to be sturdy and hold up to the mailing system. You know, excessive handling. I literally rolled over a pad of paper with my office chair this morning. I was like, oh gosh, I hope this is not how my day's gonna go. Luckily, it was non-preferred paper. That's my term for paper that I don't care about. So it worked out. Let's do this one. I just did one on both ends, but for you guys, I'm also going to stick one in the middle because you guys are special. All right, so we have all the pieces, and you will find out why I'm doing this one last in a moment. I'm going to anchor everything with the graduation word. So I'm just going to make a nice little pile of paper. So this is foam tape. It has adhesive on both sides. One side has a protective paper over it. You have to rip that off. I do know there are some non-card makers in this group. Hey sisters. So that's why I'm explaining. So some of you seasoned people are like, everyone knows what foam tape is. Yeah, no, not everyone does. So we're going to go ahead and place that down here. Right there. Luckily, there's a nice line right here, so I can see if it's relatively straight. Foam tape is forgiving, so until you smash it down, it's not going to be super stuck. Oh, you know what? I do want to put a little piece on this tassel. Right. It's exactly the same size. I could have cut it, but I didn't. All right, so we're going to take off carefully. You don't want to rip your tassel. You want to take off the papers. Yep, I make sound effects when I'm working, usually dancing in my chair when I'm working, all sorts of things. So I think I want this one sort of just here. Yeah, we'll put it there. I just laid it down. I didn't press it down. Just in case I don't like how it looks, I can move it without ripping anything up. Everything's dry now, like this isn't moving. And I kind of want this kind of going across here. And as you can see, now we have the congrats on your right there. So I feel comfortable, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Now the congrats on your might be a little bit wider. Ooh, it's a really tight fit because I cut it so small. I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut these just to be on the safe side and put it behind here. Nice little strip of foam tapes. I like to do both ends and then work my way through the middle here. Boo, boo, boo. Do, do, do. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to peel that off, put that right there. Oh, it's a good fit. Love it when a plan comes together. Okay. If I showed you guys my sketch for this card, you would burst out laughter. I cannot draw to save my life. And so all of my sketches look like scribble scrabble made by a 3-year-old cracked down on ice cream. So, yep. All right. Congrats on your bam. And then the last piece is you have a card base. And get my bone folder here, or Teflon paper creaser, which is a mouthful. Give me a second here. Just get rid of that. That way it'll save me extra vacuuming later. That fits perfectly on there. We're going to use liquid glue for sanity. For sanity. Because if I put tape runner on this and then I put on crooked, I'm going to cry after all this work. All right, so I have my liquid glue. I have my card base. And we're just going to line it up on the edge here. Make it happy. Now, you can put a sub-sentiment on the inside if you want to. I didn't do that. I actually didn't even put my other one on the card base at all yet. See? Boop. But this one's on a card base. So that sentiment set, which has disappeared. Oh, here we go. Has like class of, where you could put numbers. They have a heart and a little hat. You did it. You can stamp all of those on the inside if you wanted to. You are amazing. Any of those would look great on the inside. Okay? So that's our card. Look at that. I did try making it in different colors. I didn't like it, so you will not be seeing that on camera today. But I'm going to close my blinds because the lighting has gone crazy. And I am going to show you some other stencils. But first, let me grab some black paper. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a piece. This is how I store my paper in job ticket holders. I hope you guys like the card. So, Textile Bakery, again, we use this stencil. And this is one of my favorites for sure. Okay. Some of the other stencils I have from them, I'm just going to leave that there, are this sun. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Can you see that like on a backsplash or on some fabric or even a cake? That would be really pretty with flowers around. Okay. My stencils are well loved. Here's one. These last two are newer, so that's why I haven't messed them up yet. But, or dirtied them up. I shouldn't say messed them up. Dirtying them up. This one. Look at that one. This is a favorite. As you can see, I have lots of ink on it, lots of staining, but that's okay. It doesn't affect the stencil and it doesn't rub off or anything. I used alcohol inks, and that's what made the stencils do this. The inks we used today were dye or water-based, so that's why they didn't make this stain like that. And then check this one out. Look at that. And so it says woodcraft, clay supplies, pattern design. So again, this is their information, Textile Bakery, and they are one of the sponsors of our event, and they have sent prizes. So someone is going to win this stencil. You can't really see it. It's really pretty. And this stencil, which is similar to the one we used today. Okay. Well, good luck, everybody. It was really nice working with you today. Again, I hope you love the cards. And I will see you along with Shay in the outro. Have a good day. Bye.
Crafty grain with a stack of cardstock rainbow hued. I'm changing the vibe and I'm changing mood. Grab the scissors, watch the confetti fly. We're building a world that catches the eye.